The year was 1986, and things were a little bit different. Top Gun was the top grossing movie at the box office, followed by Crocodile Dundee. People were listening to Madonna, Billy Idol, and Lionel Richie on their Walkmans. And most people were a lot more trusting of others. On April 6, 1986, a trusting 9-year-old girl answered her door to a man claiming to be her Uncle Joe. This was witnessed by her younger sister. That little girl, Anthonette Christine Cayedito, would never be seen or heard from again. Where is Anthonette Cayedito?
Fisher. I am the Public Affairs Officer for the Albuquerque FBI Division. April 6th marked the 34th anniversary of the unsolved disappearance of Anthonette Cayedito, who was last seen at her family's home in Gallup, New Mexico, when she was only 9 years old. The FBI, the Navajo Nation Division of Public Safety, and the Gallup Police Department want to remind the public that we are still looking for Anthonette, and we need your help. Anyone with information about Anthonette's whereabouts is asked to call the FBI at 505-889-1300. That's 505-889-1300. Or you can go online at tips.fbi.gov. Someone out there knows what happened to Anthonette. Please call us. Thank you.
Hello, and welcome back to the Where Are They podcast bonus edition episode. Following our focus on missing Indigenous women this month, today's story is about the beautiful 9-year-old girl that vanished from her home in Gallup, New Mexico. And yes, we are going back quite a ways, back to the year 1986. Anthonette was a Christmas baby, born December 25th, 1976. She was born to Mother Penny Cayedito, a member of the Navajo Nation, and Father Anthony Montoya, who was Italian and Hispanic. She also had 2 little sisters, Wendy and Sadie. When her parents split, her mom, Penny, took the 3 children and moved into a duplex apartment in Gallup, New Mexico, just off of Route 66. Anthonette was a super smart child, excelling in school. She was said to have been wise beyond her years. Anthonette was also very good at sports and in gym class, and even won the Presidential Award for Physical Fitness that year in school. She attended Lincoln Elementary School and was a well-liked student there. Anthonette was also devoted to her church and religion and was known to regularly study her Bible. Anthonette loved listening to music also, and her favorites were Michael Jackson and Ronnie Milsap. Her favorite color was purple, and her nickname was Squirrel. She was also a little caregiver to her family and relatives, even at the young age of just 6 years old. Anthonette was already helping cook and iron clothes for her siblings. On the night of Saturday, April 5th, the 3 children were home with a babysitter. Mom, Penny, would return home around midnight, and all 3 children were sleeping when she got home. She said she fell asleep somewhere between 1 and 2 a.m. The events that would transpire after she fell asleep are only known to us from Wendy, who was just 5 years old. Allegedly, around 3 o'clock a.m., there was a knock at the door, a knock that only Anthonette and Wendy heard. Wendy said that Anthonette went to answer the door and hollered from the inside, "Who's there?" Wendy heard the man answer back, saying he was Uncle Joe. The next set of events are uncertain. Some reports say that Wendy fell back asleep and didn't hear or see anything else. Other reports say that Wendy did hear Anthonette scream, let me go," and was dragged out of the house. No one else in the home heard anything. The next morning, around 7 a.m., Penny went to wake up the children for school. That is when she learned that Anthonette was missing. She searched the neighborhood until 11 a.m. when she finally called the police for help. The police told her to call back in 8 hours, the required time to report a child missing. I know this is back in 1986, but it's so frustrating to always hear the different things that people are told when reporting someone missing. There is no consistency. And I want to make it known you do not need to wait at all to report a child missing. Reports should be made immediately, and police and law enforcement should react instantly. What's really interesting is when police did start investigating and looking for Anthonette, they did question an uncle, a man who was married to Penny's sister. I have not been able to find his name mentioned anywhere to confirm if his name was Joe, and perhaps he was just the only nearby uncle that police even had to speak to. He was never named a suspect, however. Searches would continue by family and law enforcement without much to go on. Nothing would happen in Anthonette's case until about a year after her disappearance. And this is troubling to learn about. The Gallup Police Department received a phone call from a frantic young girl. The girl claimed to be Anthonette and needed help. During the very brief call, which lasted only about 40 seconds, the girl said she was Anthonette and she was in Albuquerque, New Mexico. Before the police could get any more details from her, a male's voice can be heard in the background saying, "Who said you could use the phone?" A girl can then be heard screaming and you can hear a scuffle, and then the line went dead. Since the call was only 40 seconds long, the police were unable to trace where it came from. Police did play the recorded call for Penny, Anthonette's mother, who identified the voice as that of her daughter. She said she did not recognize the voice of the man. The case would go cold again until 1991. A witness in Carson City, Nevada, reported seeing a young teenage girl with a couple that appeared very unkempt. The three were eating at a restaurant, and every time the waitress walked by, the girl would drop her fork. When she and the waitress would go to reach for it at the same time, she would squeeze the waitress's hand. After they left, while cleaning off the table, the waitress found a note written on a napkin tucked under the plate where the girl had been sitting that read, "Help me, call the police." The authorities were never able to figure out who that was and what happened to them after they left the restaurant. To date, there have been no real clues as to Anthonette's whereabouts or what may have even happened to her on that day in 1986. Shortly after that Carson City sighting, Penny turned to her own Native American heritage in the search for Anthonette. She and her two other daughters visited a Navajo medicine woman who was skilled in traditional tribal ceremonies. The medicine woman performed a crystal ritual, which is said to make contact with the spirit of a missing person. According to the medicine woman, Anthonette was still very much alive and likely had a child. She was being held against her will by threats of violence and was somewhere still in the Southwest. Anthonette's sister, Wendy, has said that Anthonette's disappearance tore apart her family and that her mom would never be able to talk about her without crying. Eventually, both mother and daughter turned to alcohol and drugs to cope with the pain. Wendy herself went down a very bad road for quite some time, getting involved in drugs and gangs. She has since cleaned herself up and moved to California, where she now resides with her family. She has been quoted as saying, "If I couldn't find my sister, the least I can do is find myself." Interestingly, it's also said that Wendy and her little sister, Sadie, have been estranged, and that the events with the family revolving around Anthonette's disappearance led to that estrangement. But no reports go into detail as to why that is. Police have also come forward at times and said that they believe Penny Cayedito, Anthonette's mother, likely knows more than she is saying regarding her disappearance. It is also rumored that Penny took and failed a polygraph test. But this does go against what the family says in describing Penny as completely torn up over losing her daughter. Penny passed away in 1999. Anthonette's father, Anthony, passed away in 2012. Twice, once in 1992 and once again in 1996, remains were found in New Mexico that were believed to be Anthonette. Both times they were ruled out as being her. Anthonette Cayedito was last seen on April 6, 1986. She was wearing a pink nightgown. At the time of her disappearance, she was 9 years old, 4 foot 7 inches tall, and weighed around 55 pounds. She had brown hair, brown eyes, freckles, and also sometimes wore glasses. Her ears were pierced, and she had a scar on her lip and one on her knee. She was also known to wear a silver chain with a small turquoise cross pendant. Anthonette would now be 44 years old. The FBI has published age progression photos as to what Anthonette might look like today. If you have any information as to the whereabouts of Anthonette Cayedito, please call the Gallup Police Department at 505-863-9365. This case is so sad and heartbreaking that there have been no answers. Not knowing what happened to Anthonette all this time has to be immensely painful for the family. Cases of missing children are always difficult, but being that this happened so many years ago and there have been so little clues to go on is just heart-wrenching. Thank you so much for listening to this 9-year-old girl's story. We will be back again next week with another Unsolved Missing Persons episode. And until then, stay safe and hug your loved ones.